What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today I'm finally reviewing Wonder Man. Thanks, Disney. This is why we can't have nice things anymore. I was offered an advance on this, and then they didn't follow through on it. So I got it with everyone else, and I, through some level of like annoyance and spite, I just didn't binge it. So you're getting this review a little bit late. It's still pretty close. I mean, it was 8 episodes and hadn't been that long. So, yeah, this is Wonder Man. I've seen all 8 episodes. And I gotta say, I'm smitten. I think it's the best thing Marvel made. I think it beat everything from last year. In my humble opinion, Wonder Man is better than anything they made in 2025 in film or television. I think it's smart. I think the character is well written. There's a story here. It seems to be insulated, which has been a problem for a lot of people who are like, oh God, is everything going to be connected to the cinematic universe? In a weird way, this is connected to the cinematic universe, but not in a meaningful way that's going to affect like Avengers movies. Not in a weird way where you're like, oh God, now we have to work, we have to explain Wonder Man to the audience like we did all of the cast of Thunderbolts. So, because if all you're doing is watching the movies and you're not watching the series, some of these films feel like, who are these people? Where did you come from? But I would encourage people to watch Wonder Man because I think it's the kind of series that people have been waiting for people who keep going, oh, I don't want this. Although there is a black lead, and there are a lot of people who are like, Marvel's woke now, and then they keep hitting their head against the wall, hoping that it will change something. There's nothing that's really woke about the show. He just happens to be black of Haitian descent, played by Yahya Abdul Mateen. Our character is Simon. He grew up as a kid. There was uh, like a fictional Wonder Man was like a film, and he grew up watching it with his dad. Um, and then it turns out that Simon now is an adult. He's an actor, and we see him sort of trying to navigate life as an actor, and he takes his craft really seriously, and he might overthink things and overthink his character, um, you know why, his motivations, which kind of get him a little bit into trouble because there's just like a basic, hey, can you just do this for us? We just need you to do this. And it's like, well, what about, well, my character wouldn't, I don't know if my character would say this. And so he's really into the craft of it from an actor's perspective, but sometimes it can be a little bit of annoyance for directors. So one of the cool things that the show does is it uses all of it uses a lot of like real world projects, and mentions them throughout, like American Horror Story, so that it looks like he's been in things that actually exist instead of, because they're all Disney products. So there are a whole bunch of things that are mentioned directly instead of like, those fake movie titles that people come up with, like, oh man, I'm in that new show, Biloxi Cops. There's no show like that. Like, cool, bro. That sounds like a fun show. Glad you're on it. No, they're like American Horror Story. You're like, oh shit, that's a real show. And Josh Gad is gonna appear here, and he's gonna sing like a club version of In Summer from Frozen. So, um, so how they connect to um, the the films is through Trevor, the Mandarin, played by Ben Kingsley. He's in the whole series, and he's actually great. At first, I was like, God damn it, this guy again, because I didn't know he was in this. I hadn't really paid that much attention to it, but I was like, the Mandarin is back. We just couldn't we have left him in Shang-Chi? Did we? But man, this is the best use that they've ever had of the Mandarin since Iron Man 2. So, or it was 2, right? Yeah, it's a 3. Fucking Iron Man was he in 3. Um, because 2 was the other people. Anyway, it was 3. Sorry. Yeah, the best use of him since he was introduced. And Ben Kingsley does a hell of a job here too. I loved him in this. Like at first, I was like, Jesus, get this guy out of here. I hate this character. But by the end of it, I was like, this is the best use of Trevor I think I've ever had. Like ever, ever, ever. Best thing Ben Kingsley's done in a while. So we also have Agent Cleary, who it's okay if you forgot that he was in Spider-Man No Way Home because I did. So only through my research for the show when I was looking at like other cast members and like who else appeared here, they were like, I was like, oh, that guy was in something else. Okay, I forgot him. He's not memorable at all. So he, he somehow manages to feel like he's like the agent who just uh, stumbled in. I remember agents from Loki better than I do this guy. So, yeah, he made like zero impact on my life in Spider-Man No Way Home. I can't even remember what scene he was in or how they used him. I'm just like, void. There's a void. There's a space where Agent Cleary was. I can't, like, my brain has not found him. I was like, what scene were you in? What did you do? What did you do for that film? Here he's like, ah, whatever. You know, the point is not of him in the film. It's not his movie anyway, his series. So he does find and capture Trevor though and force him to work for them because he believes that Simon is powered and it's this is really like a series of the time too. And it's funny how they make these things and they just sort of like end up because you can see things that they don't really mesh with the time period that they're in and they get released and it's like, well, that doesn't really work here. This is nothing relevant to the time period and has, if anything, it has sort of contradictory tones and themes to the move to what we're experiencing in real life. But you see Wonder Man and you know, there's a meeting where like the head of um I don't know if it's just of damage control or if it's like something that precedes damage control. But they're talking about how their prisons are like half empty and that they, you know, basically go find people, right? Go find people to put in there. They don't really care if they're bad people. And it's kind of what's happening. It's like there's an intentionality here around immigration, right? And the whole thing was like, oh, we're going to find the worst of the worst and get them out of there. And then you see like a picture of like a 5-year-old boy in like a bunny outfit, and you're like, is he the worst of the worst? Is is that because if that's the worst, we're probably okay at that point. Um, so anyway, I have a feeling he's probably not as bad as people would make. So to have a timing of a show where, you know, they're basically going out there and just trying to find powered people to put into prisons, and then this guy has targeted Simon and sends Trevor after him. So because Trevor is an actor also, so Trevor can work up the courage to, I don't know, mentor him and help Simon on his career. And in and around all of this is the relaunch of Wonder Man. They're going to do a Wonder Man reboot, and Simon really wants to audition for it because it's his lifelong dream. This thing that he did with his dad back in the day that they sell you on the whole time. We get to see his mom and his brother. There's a scene where they go back to his parents' house. He calls his mom a couple times too, and his brother comes back, and his family's around in the show a little bit tangentially. He also has an agent that calls him a lot and is very demanding of him. Um, we see we get to shape Simon as a character, and eventually we find out, yeah, he is powered. He does have real powers, but the funny thing is, he's not actually Wonder Man. So for people who are seeing the title of the show and they're like, oh, is this a new superhero? And it's like, not really, because Wonder Man isn't a real superhero. He's like he's like a fake superhero. It'd be like in our world, right? So like in our world, we don't really have a Superman. So if somebody were to be making a world and there was somebody here who was powered in real life and took on the mantra of Superman in a movie who happened to have the powers of Superman, that's kind of what this is. So Simon happens to have powers and is auditioning to play Wonder Man, but because episode 4 is fantastic, it's my favorite episode of the show. It breaks the narrative structure of the rest of the series and shows us um, another actor another guy who was powered who became an actor, and things didn't work out well for him. So therefore, the industry sort of has a ban on powered individuals acting because so Simon, if people were to find out that he had powers, it would kill his career and he wouldn't be able to act anymore. So there's that. Plus, I guess they need to fill the prisons. So multiple things are happening here. But yeah, the two of them are going to work together. Trevor kind of goes in thinking that it's like a self-preservation thing to stay out of jail because, he was the Mandarin. And but he really wasn't. He was just an actor who signed up for a gig and didn't realize what he was getting himself into. He was too high and drunk to figure that out. And you get more of his backstory too, and about how he became the Mandarin. We get to see his audition to play the Mandarin and how that happened. And yeah, that's a great show. There's so much here. There's a richness behind it. When you get into Wonder Man, there's this parallel that they run between the characters of what they're doing in Wonder Man. When you find out like the kind of scenes that they're reading for and the characters that exist, because Trevor ends up being up for a role called Barnaby, who is like the best friend slash surprise enemy in Wonder Man. And that's kind of what he is actually to Simon, but Simon doesn't realize that. So once they reveal those characters to you, it's interesting to see the progression of them in the series, knowing sort of where this is likely headed and seeing them sort of discovering where their characters go. Should they get them? Should they land the roles? And the progression of the series and how it kind of lines up with it looks like Barnaby at some point is gonna, have to flip and turn on Wonder Man. So of course Trevor's going to do that to Simon, or is he? I mean that's kind of the thing. The hope that you have is seeing how close are these parallels really going to run the whole time. And I just loved it. I just loved the whole thing. I thought it was great. Yeah, it's a show that I kind of started off with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder just because of Disney being like, I don't know. I was like, why ask me to confirm and then be like, no, okay, fine. I will take my sweet time. Because I would have had enough time. It's easily at least 8 days before. So even if I had watched one episode a day, I would have had it reviewed in time for its release. So I did basically the reverse of that. Anyway, exceptional. I loved it. Yahya Abdul-Mateen is excellent here. I can't imagine what problems people have with the show. It's interesting. The show is it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like you see sort of how we're reacting to Haiti, and trying to revoke their status and send people back to the country, and like they don't contribute to the country. But here he's presented as the child of Haitian immigrants, and his whole family is presented in a way where it's like they're all contributing. Nobody is, sucking off society. His brother is successful. His brother's actually more successful than he is, because he's the struggling actor, and his brother is the one that sort of financially supports them. So, yeah, it's really it's intriguing to think, because they shoot these things and it takes a while for them to get into post-production, how they just sort of accidentally stumble into time periods where you can draw conclusions to them. And I think about like, how would this series land? Would I have noticed these things if they didn't matter? And I think I would have, but they wouldn't make as much of an impact. There are certain things and themes in the show that wouldn't hit as strong if there wasn't a current timeline parallel to it. Sort of the same, it's the one battle after another thing. It's like, if there was no world to mirror it, if it just was released in and of itself, for everybody who hates that movie and thinks it's like politically troubled, it's like, yeah, but I mean, if we were in Kamala Harris's administration, that movie would not have played the same way. It just wouldn't have. It would not be the front runner for Best Picture. Paul Thomas Anderson maybe for director, simply because he's on like his 11th nomination now without a win. But he could even end up winning. There's an alternate world where everybody didn't vote for Trump because they were sane, and and one battle after another landed with kind of like, no, that was good. Like kind of the same way Paul Thomas Anderson's past couple movies have landed. And then people are still obsessed with Sinners. And then Ryan Coogler wins Best Director for Sinners. And then Sinners wins Best Picture. That's the world. Unfortunately, because it feels more of the times, one battle after another ends up becoming more important. So is Wonder Man amplified through the presence of time? I think the things that are underneath it are that are actually connected to anything that you might see in and of today aren't necessarily the things that power the show. What ends up powering the show is this relationship between Simon and Trevor and how they take Trevor, a character that sucks, and actually make him really good. By the time this show is over, you're going to be like, my God, I've never been more happy to see this character in my entire life. Like, I've always thought his character was kind of silly. It's like, it was a good gag in Iron Man 3, and then we tried to bring him back for more things, and I'm like, why is he still here? Why is this gag still going on? And this is the absolute perfect thing to bring Trevor back for, because he's a very low stakes character. He never needs to be an Avenger. Nobody's ever going to expect him to be an Avenger. And because they don't need to bring anybody else from any other Marvel film or TV series or anything else into this, it stays contained. So for all the people who are like, I can't watch all these TV series and the films, it's just a lot for me in my life. Well, you can watch this. It's it's very self-contained. It will connect to nothing except Wonder Man. He doesn't get offered a spot in the Avengers. He does. He's Nick Fury doesn't come out in the end of this and go, Simon, we need you. No, yeah, it just kind of ends on its own. I really love the ending, and I don't want to spoil it, but the the work that the ending does to sell you on it in the final, because I was kind of wondering how they were going to end the series, considering where episode 7 leaves us. I was like, oh man, I'm so intrigued. Each episode is only like 30 minutes, so they don't have a whole lot of time. And what they use for the final 30 minutes, I thought was so interesting how they use that time, because they kind of answer the question of how are we ending the show pretty quickly, and then they allow it to have sort of a coda to it with Simon. That's the best way I can describe it without um, where there's like an actual like emotional payoff with Simon, and something that really ties the whole series together in a way where you're like, I could see some people being like polarizing, like, why would he do that? Why would he risk all of that? And it's like, I thought it was cool, man. I mean, I thought it, you know, I thought the amount of work that he has to go into in order to make the ending happen is, it's sort of like watching somebody make a grand like promposal or something like that all on their own. And you're like, my God, you did all of that for this, for this one thing, this little thing. So yeah, it's terrific. I adore this show. I think it's one of my favorite Marvel shows in years. I can't remember what the last great Marvel show for me was, but it certainly wasn't last year. Last year we had Spider-Man, it was fine. Like, I'd be excited for a second season of that. Daredevil Born Again got better at the end when they were like, hey, what if we had some other characters in here and the show stopped sucking ass? And Ironheart was fine. It did get a little bit more interesting with Sacha Baron Cohen, but initially the villain was kind of dull. Like, it's a kind of a show that was finding itself, but I'd be perfectly fine watching more of Riri. I'm one of those people, I'm not a Riri hater. I was kind of disappointed with Zombies. I felt like they could have gone more with that. Eyes of Wakanda, I hated one of the episodes, but the other two I liked. So it wasn't like a great year for Marvel television. And film was, I did not like Captain America. I did like Thunderbolts. That was in my top, like, whatever number I had. I just put like a list of my favorite films of the year with no definition or number. It's about like 30. Because I did like it. And then Fantastic Four was okay. It was fine. So, Wonder Man beat all that. Wonder Man's better than Thunderbolts for me, and that was a top 30 movie of last year. If Wonder Man was a movie this year, it would be like sailing towards being in my top of this year. Um, I think people will love it, and it's worth fighting for. So I think Yahya Abdul Mateen is excellent here. I thought Ben Kingsley has never been better in this role, and because even when you think about him being used as the Mandarin, it's very one note when he's being used, and then he's kind of used for comic effect. Here, he actually is given emotional depth and range. Episode 4 is fantastic. I hope if they nominate any episode, they nominate episode 4 at the Emmys. That would be great. Um, but yeah, I'm high on Wonder Man, man. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I love this show. I thought it was excellent. I think the audio description is terrific. There's a lot to describe here, um, especially with having to do with Simon's powers, which are never fully defined. He feels sort of like he has, um, like we still don't quite know what the limitations to his powers are, which is good because the series is never really about exploring him as a superhero. It's about exploring who he is as a person and as an actor. He's not training to be a superhero. He's not training to fight crime. So we don't really know what his full range of capabilities are. There's a little sort of gag towards the end where he after everything he's sitting with the director of the Wonder Man movie and they're talking about a sequel, and the director's like, I don't usually do sequels, but if we were to do one, it would be good to sit and think about the idea and kick around some and have a conversation. It's like, they're basically admitting, like, we're not planning on doing a Wonder Man second season, but if you want it bad enough, I guess. So will we see more of Wonder Man? I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna guess probably not because I think he's gonna be trapped like Moon Knight, where it's just this great singular thing that happened, and they don't know what to do with it moving forward. Like they're just like, I don't know. And this is better than Moon Knight, by the way, as a series. But Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight was fantastic, and I love it. I actually like Moon Knight as a character more. Like he was a character I was really looking forward to see adapted, and I'm just disappointed that we don't get to see Moon Knight on a more consistent basis in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So anyway, Wonder Man. Check it out. I think you'll like it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.